Hello friends and welcome to the Weekend Catch-Up Club, the coffee morning show brought to you live every Saturday direct to Facebook and Twitch and available later on demand at youtube.com/gamertagged and podcast services. For this episode, I am joined by an incredibly fast friend I have made recently. It is, of course, Mr. Midas. Welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
In the building. Now, I've got to keep it 100. I'm slipping. Because I was meant to have my coffee mug to show you, even though I don't drink coffee. But I just got my water bottle. But I'm very disappointed with myself because I got some really cool mugs and I didn't bring any.
I'm kind of disappointed that you haven't at least done some cool water jug, collaborations or something. There's bound to be some freebies in there somewhere.
I've got a really sick, I'm an Elgato partner, so I've got a really cool Elgato mug, so...
Nice.
Slipping.
Nice. Yeah. And we just talked a little bit there about how freaking awesome that hoodie is that you're wearing. The Wolfenstein. Look at that.
Shout out insert coin for this one. Keeping me looking swaggerlicious. It's so funny because I wear gaming clothes all of the time and it's very rarely people will ever recognize what I'm wearing unless I'm wearing like a blatant PlayStation top or something like that. And I've met people in life just because they've clocked what I'm wearing. They're like, oh, you got that gaming top. So
yeah, man. And congratulations to you. You got verified on Twitter just the other week as well.
I did. I am verification gang. Oh my goodness. I've been trying to get verified for what feels like an eternity. But it's dope. It's just another achievement for me. I love to celebrate every achievement that happens in my career, whether it be big or small. And I had an incident a long time ago where someone created a fake Twitter account of me and they posted my real ID online and it was all a crazy roller coaster to get it sorted. So that kind of gives me that added security as well.
Yeah, because it's so easy to create these fake accounts. You see them popping up all the time and it's like this identity theft, and without any official verification you just can't control it, and you must be freaking out as to these unknown people damaging your brand, your reputation as something else.
Exactly. People would do the one I always think that's really funny is there's loads of fake Nintendo ones with a Nintendo with a lower score, and they're always posting about a new direct, and people are like, oh my god, there's a direct tomorrow. I'm like, fam, it's got an underscore and it doesn't have a tick. Come on, use your brain.
Absolutely. It's easy to get suckered into these things. You get whipped up in the hype and you just get lost in it, and without you get catfished like crazy. It's so unfortunate. So
plus we are the biggest suckers for directs. I don't know what it is about Nintendo Directs. There's nothing. I think the only thing that we get more excited about than a direct is either a console launch or E3. But other than that, it's just directs. It's just something Nintendo's put in all of our water.
It's that thing. You're absolutely right. Is whenever they announce a direct, the hype levels go through the roof. Even though they say it's going to be low key, fam. You're not going to see Breath of the Wild 2. You're not going to see the next Mario. But everybody on Twitter is just like, oh my god, we're going to get Breath of the Wild 2. We're going to get the next Mario. And then they can't win because they try to lower the expectations, lower the hype. But then after the direct, it's like, well, why didn't they show Breath of the Wild 2? Why didn't they show the next big thing? It's like, moderate expectations, but even when you do that, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't seem to matter at all.
People are mad. They'll do a direct and say, this Nintendo Direct is focused on Yoshi's Island. And everyone will be like, where was Breath of the Wild? Where was Metro Prime? Why is there not a new Mario Kart? And you're like, fam, they said it's going to be Yoshi's Island. Do you really think in a direct about Yoshi's Island, you're going to see the new Breath of the Wild? People lose their mind.
I know. And it's usually just a new Smash character, and everybody's losing their mind because it's not who they want it to be as well. So that's so funny. It's so funny. So anyway, Mr. Midas, who are you? And I know who you are, obviously, but for anybody who doesn't know who you are, TV presenter at Jinx TV, Elgato partner, BAFTA board member. Give us a skinny, man. Tell us how it all got started for you, and of course, who you are and what you do in the gaming space.
Firstly, give us the skinny is the sickest statement I've ever heard the whole day. So I love that, feeling that statement. And who am I? I'm just an incredible individual. No, being serious. So I'm Mr. Midas. I'm a TV presenter and content producer who specializes in video games. I've been in the gaming space for just over 5 years now. Previously from music and TV presenting background. 5 years ago, I created a show called Games, Gadgets and Rhymes, #GGR, with a guy called Richie Driss, who's now the 38th Blue Peter presenter, randomly enough. And we came up with this concept called Games, Gadgets and Rhymes, where we'll pit recording artists to go head to head on the latest console games. And we have people like Big Nasty, Krypton Conan, AJ Tracy, and Dave playing the newest games. It was super dope. And that's what got me into the gaming industry. That all came from a space within me of being a gamer since I was little, but just no one representing me. So I'm not really like the content I watch. I don't watch much streams. I'm more about like produced content. So I like to watch like the IGNs. I love Kind of Funny. I love GameSpot. But when I was coming up, no one was black on any of those platforms. And it's frustrating because everyone around me games, like all of my brethren, all of my friends, all the recording studios, we all play video games. But when you look at the mediums that are showing video games, we're not being seen. So I'm not a complainer, I'm a doer. So we came up with that. That lasted for like about 4 years. And yeah, we did some really big projects. Like I produced content for like Call of Duty, did Final Fantasy VII Remake, did NBA Live out in Paris, went to E3. Like we did some sick content then. And then, yeah, I produced a lot of gaming content. So I produced some stuff for like Universal Records, gaming stuff. I produced stuff for Gamescom. And last year, I started a job as a host on Jinx TV for a show called WTF. What's that, fam? Where I get to shout at gamers who do stupid things in the industry. But yeah, man, just to solidify it into a very, very small package, I'm just a creative who loves gaming. And anytime I can talk about gaming, play games, create content about gaming, like I'm about it. Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is our second collaboration, right? Last week or the week before, I can't remember now. It's all just been a blur since you were introduced into my life. Everything's just been a blur. So we had that amazing collaboration episode of the Mass Effect Legendary Edition about why it's so special, why it's so relevant. Because you came at it from the angle of not having played it before, and then we got to talk about. We were like the old guard kind of thing of the franchises because we were like loving the series, and now the game's released. You're getting to play it. What are your initial thoughts of it? How are you doing? What are the decisions you've been making, man? I gotta know.
So firstly, thank you for joining the piece of content. If you ain't seen, make sure you go and check it out on my YouTube, youtube.com/Mr. Midas Games. And yeah, like you said, I've always known about Mass Effect, known about it for years. And I missed that hype train because I weren't really into Western RPGs. My background was more JRPGs. So I missed that hype train. And then when you get more and more into gaming, all people talk about is, oh my God, you love RPGs. Have you played Mass Effect? Have you played Mass Effect? I'm like, no. And I can't go back and find a PS2 or a PS3 and play them games. Like I just not about it. It's too janky. It's like hurting my soul. So I've actually been waiting for them to either remake or remaster it. So when they announced it, I was super excited. And yeah, we did a dope piece of content where we spoke about it. And I'm still in Mass Effect 1. So I'll give you, I won't get into spoiler territory, but I'll just kind of give you my overall impression so far. So the male character creator for me is much better than the woman character creator. I don't know why. I tried to do the female character creator first, and I don't know, she just kept on looking janky, man. I was just like, like I make her and she looks good, but then when she's in a cutscene, she looks weird. So I was like, I started again and did the male character creator. They got some good black hairstyles that I was happy to. I had a fade and all sorts. I was impressed that they gave man the fade. I love how much of an RPG it is. Like even though it's in space and stuff like that, a lot of games that are kind of like that are just proper like action games, and this for me is an action game. It is an RPG into the point where like you literally have to listen. Now, sometimes when I play JRPGs, I don't love grinding, but sometimes like if I'll just kind of have music on or watch something and be kind of grinding in the background, like upping my points. But in this game, if you're not listening to the conversations, you ain't gonna know what you need to do, fam. Like I missed the conversation. I was like, bro, what did they say? And I had to go back to an old save to be like, oh, that's where I need to go. Because the map in this game is hella trash. Hella trash. Like, this is how trash it is. I'm in this scene where I'm meeting this blue chick. I'm trying to hunt her down for some reason. Because
is that Liara by any chance? Yeah.
Not the one who joins our team, the evil one.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. The matriarch, Benezia.
Yeah, the matriarch. Yeah. So I'm hunting her down, and I'm going up and down and up and down, and then I get to this door, and it's saying, "No, this door's locked." So I'm like, "How do I get into this door?" So I've gone all the way around, and I'm like, "Have I missed the key?" And like, there's no. You have to go up and down elevators. But say, for example, there's a spot where you need to go on the map. Say it's on like level 4. When you're on level 1, it doesn't tell you go to that lift and that will take you to level 4. It just doesn't show anything. So you have to work out for yourself to get to level 4. And then when you get to level 4, you'll see the icon. But I was on level 4. There was no icon. And I kept on going around in a circle. And then there was one door that I didn't even realize that I missed. And I walked in the door and I was like, a cutscene started. I was like, do you know how much times I've been here? Do you know how much times? But it's charming. It's really caught me. I've done my first reset because I was talking to Rex and me and Rex started getting in it, and Rex was running up his mouth. And I'm like, fam, calm down, calm down. And then he's like, no, you're my people. And I pull out my gun and he pulls out his gun. Oof. And then the girl who's like on my team just caps him. She just shoots him in his back.
She just shot him. Wow.
She just shoots him in his back and he drops down dead in front of me. I'm like, fam, what are you doing? And she's like, I had to make sure he don't kill you. I'm like, nah, I didn't tell you to do that. So I had to reopen the save and charm him and talk to him. And cause I was like, do you know how long I've invested in this guy? I put bare points into him. I'm giving him some good equipment. I spent bare money in his armor and you want to come shoot him in his back?
So you went full renegade playthrough with that option then. That's the thing. Yeah. You raised such a funny point about having to pay attention to the dialogue, because you can't check Twitter when a cutscene's happening or when there's dialogue options. You got to pay attention, and the map is atrocious for the first game. You got to bear in mind this was 2007. BioWare had never really made an action RPG before, like third person. They were all either tactical turn based with Dragon Age or the Baldur's Gate, which is like isometric sort of RPG. This was like totally new territory for them. So they hadn't nailed a lot of systems that we really take for granted for now, like cover systems, like being able to dodge roll, which you cannot do at all in this game at all. So everything is super janky. It looks better, but everything is still really janky. And I think for a lot of people, the first game can be quite a tough playthrough because of the jump and improvements in quality of life stuff that when you get to Mass Effect 2 and ultimately Mass Effect 3, it becomes more in line with what you're kind of used to for like the Gears of War style of shooting mechanics and cover systems and that responsiveness and much faster paced usage of your powers and everything. But Mass Effect 1 can be tough, but it's got an amazing story.
I think what's really good for me is I think when you play a lot of Japanese RPGs, there's a lot of jank with them anyway. Like people play Persona and they're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And they think that's what a traditional Japanese RPG is like. It's not. Like normal, like when you're an RPG guy, you accept jank. So I feel like even though number one, I know it's an old game. It's not The Last of Us Part 2, so I'm not expecting it to play like that.
Sure.
But I just expect some kind of jank from RPGs anyway. So I think I always give RPGs that kind of leeway, and then something like The Witcher blows me out of the water, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know RPGs could be this smooth.
Is so true, right? So you're loving JRPGs. Let's delve into that just a bit, because JRPGs is something I don't really play much of. I was always a Western RPG. I only discovered Final Fantasy series just recently as well. I think the only one I've really played is 7 Remake. I played a little bit of 15, but I kind of bounced off that quite quickly as well. In fact, I know it looked amazing and it moved into a real-time combat system, but 7 Remake anyway was just amazing. And I'm kind of tempted to go back and revisit the original, the OG 7. But saying that, Persona 5 I've played a good chunk of. For a turn-based RPG, I don't think I've seen a more stylishly art-directed game in my life. The visuals of that game are just absolutely incredible. So what are your top JRPGs for somebody looking to get into JRPGs?
Sorry, I know this is your show, but I'm taking over. Fam, tell me about your first experience playing it, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I need to know, how was that for you for the first time? Final Fantasy VII is one of the greatest RPGs ever made, and the remake, they just take it to a whole different level. Talk to me about it, and then I'll tell you about my great ones. Okay.
Well, I gotta say, the visuals, first of all, considering I know what the original looks like, it's over 20 years old, so it's very much static backgrounds, pixel art, turn-based. And when they announced the first trailer for 7 Remake, I thought, there's no freaking way this whole game can look this amazing. Anyway, scrub forward to where the game got released last year, and I was blown away by not just the cinematics, because I know Final Fantasy cinematics have always been these incredible CGI, lavishly presented cutscenes. But now Game Engine is the equivalent of that. That's where we're at with game technology nowadays. And the fact that you could either play it turn-based, you could stop and pause the action and go into more of a tactical combat, I actually really liked. I didn't think I would like it, but I actually prefer to play the game that way. But saying that, if you wanted to do the very fast, instant, real-time combat system, you could do that as well. I thought the characters were just so interesting, really well written. The world is mind-blowingly cool and interesting. The music is just the score. The orchestral score is really something incredible. And I thought to myself, holy crap, you can see why it is so highly coveted as one of the best RPGs of all time. And I know Remake is only the first chunk of the game, but it easily felt like one of the best remakes, like a proper from the ground up remake that we've ever seen. Obviously, probably the other one goes to like Resident Evil 2, because that remake was just phenomenal as well. But this was something entirely new for an entirely new generation, or like me, for newcomers as well. And I just think, damn, when do we get episode 2? And I'm really...
Do you know how good? Do you know how good it is to hear you talk like that? Because you got to understand, like, the game that made me a hardcore gamer is Final Fantasy VII. That's why I'm a hardcore gamer. Prior to that, I gamed, but I never held that badge of identity and classed myself as a gamer. And like Cloud Strife and Aerith and Barrett, like Barrett was like the first black video game character that I even saw.
Sure, of course, right?
Yeah, so he's the first black character that I've seen, and like the way the story is and the lore and the music and it bangs, and people love Final Fantasy VII, that world, so much that they was like, right, let's do a sequel that's which is I was going to say anime, but it's not anime. It's like a 3D, like a Pixar movie.
Right.
And if you think this game came out last year and it looks better than the Pixar movie. The game looks so incredible that when they showed when they showed the PS5 version, people can't even tell the difference. They're like, oh, does it look better? Yeah, the backgrounds look much better, but they made that game look so good. I didn't even know a PS4 could make games look so good. The only people who ever pushed the PS4 to that limit is Naughty Dog. And to think Square took it to that level. And it's funny that you said about Persona 5, because I always say, in the modern generation we're at now, Final Fantasy VII Remake is the best real-time action RPG combat, and Persona is the best turn-based RPG combat. So if you're going to do a turn-based RPG, you need to do it like Persona. If you're going to do a real-time, you need to do it like Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Hold on just a second there, Mr. Midas. I think we have a comment from the back of the room that wants to protest the turn-based system a little bit. Because up until I played another game, which I'm going to mention, I would, in total agreement with you, I love the turn-based system in Persona 5. But then I played Yakuza Like a Dragon. And that turn-based system is really good because it fuses real-time with turn-based, as in your characters are all moving, they're reacting. The world is not paused for all your characters just standing still in a row. Everything is fused with this agency, this real-time movement, but the controls are all easily mapped to the face buttons, and then you can start doing these crazy, outlandish moves that Yakuza is known for. So we may have a bit of competition between what is the best turn-based system.
So I agree with you on the movement. The movement is the best thing that it does. But for me, it seems weird. I don't think real-time high-end graphics works well with turn-based. Like, if you think of all of the big turn-based games, they're very kind of anime-esque or that kind of cartoon aesthetic, and bringing it to that real time. Now, Yakuza Like a Dragon is my first proper Yakuza game, and I couldn't really get into it. But wait a second, I played Judgment. So Judgment was the first game I played in that world. And that real-time combat in Judgment is so sick. Like, it reminds me of, and I always say this to people and they think I'm mad, but it reminds me of, do you remember back in the days, I think it was Tekken 2, there was like a running section where you'd run with your character and you're fighting like loads of people. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of that type of combat. And I think, even though Yakuza Like a Dragon, they did the turn-based so well, it still feels a bit weird. It still feels like this is meant to be real time and you're just trying to do something quirky.
That's fair enough. I'll concede that. I will definitely concede that. And to be fair, when you start pulling off all of the special moves of the personas in Persona 5, there is something that is pure anime spectacular with the visual effects that are going on. And yeah, it feels perfect as a turn-based game. Do you think... Well, actually, no. I was going to say, do you think Persona could work as a real-time combat game? But they just released Strikers, right? Persona 5, which is kind of real-time. Have you tried that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So Strikers... So weirdly enough, before we even talk about Strikers, see, I'm always taking over. I'm going to talk about...
That's fine. That's fine. This is your show now. Go for it.
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Now, I'm not a Muso guy. That's not my thing. Like, I'm not into these whole Dynasty Warrior games. Not my thing. Hyrule Warriors, I love Legend of Zelda, one of my favorite franchises ever. Thought it was a snore. But Age of Calamity works so well. Like, so it was the Breath of the Wild world, but it's all like the Muso, Dynasty Warriors, and it was perfect. So then when they announced, not when they announced, it was already announced, but when the release of Strikers was coming out, I was so gassed because I was like, Age of Calamity, they made that combat so incredible, taking that Zelda aesthetic and made it perfect. I was expecting big things for Persona 5 Strikers, and I was hella disappointed. Like, it was just too much. I think the charminess that you say about Persona is it's colorful and it's bright and loads of things are going on. And I think it was just too much. Like, I got so fed up. I'll be fighting a boss And then that you'd be doing Joker's special move and you're swinging across the room. And while you're swinging across the room, the boss hits me and takes away half of my life. Now, I've pressed one button. I can't stop myself from swinging. That's his move. How is he hitting me while I'm swinging around the room? So to answer your question, the long way around, it didn't work. It should have worked, but it didn't.
Yeah. Well, does it still utilize like the dice roll kind of mechanics? So regardless of what you're doing, like you can't manually dodge a fireball or an attack because it's still trying to keep the core of the turn-based thing. It'll either hit you or it'll miss you based on like the dice roll. But what it should have been is fully embraced the real-time combat where if you're manually controlling the character, then it shouldn't be at the roll of a dice for the stats or percentages on who's going to hit you and who's going to miss you.
Well, no, you are doing like manual dodges and stuff, but like you got special moves in it. So you still call personas and stuff like that. So one of Joker's specials, like I was using as an example, is he just flies across the room. But like I said, once you press that move, you're committed. In that move. You're committed, and you got hit. And I just think too much was going on at one time. Like I didn't even know. This is how it tells you too much was going on. I'll be fighting, and I didn't even know if I was getting hit or if I was hitting someone.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the feedback is just like crazy. You can't keep track of anything that's going on.
Yeah. It's like a mosh pit. It's like if you're in a mosh pit, like you don't know whose foot is in your face. You don't know who punched you. All you know is this guy manic in this mosh pit.
That's Dynasty Warriors through and through for you, though, right? That's what that game kind of series is all about. And they've transposed it to, first of all, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, and then into Persona. But I mean, maybe they shouldn't have done it with Persona then. By the sounds of it, they probably shouldn't have.
100% they should.
Yeah. All right, then go and hit me with your JRPG list then. Come on.
So do you know
what?
I want
to know your favorites.
I always talk about the same RPGs. Like anytime I get interviewed or I'm doing talks, I'm always talking about Persona. I'm always talking about Final Fantasy. Like I'm the biggest Final Fantasy guy. But I was like, no, Ross has called me in. So I'm going to give him the list that people don't usually hear. So let's talk about some games that I really love that I don't usually talk about.
It's just going to be the hidden gems. Okay, I'm loving it.
Yeah. So the first game I tweet about it, but I haven't had a conversation about it. Now, not many people know about this game. I'm going to tell you about a title called Skies of Arcadia. Have you heard of this?
I have heard the name. Haven't played it, but I've heard the name.
So let me take you back to the days when I had a Dreamcast, my G. I'm talking about a Dreamcast.
Only the greatest console that's ever existed.
The most underrated console ever made. So I had a Dreamcast and I got this RPG, and you're a pirate, yeah? With me. This is before any pirate games from Ubisoft, before any of this. But you're a pirate in the sky, not in the ship, in the sky. So this is flying pirates. So it's turn-based, it's anime, you fight on your ship, but you also have ship-to-ship combat. So the ships are having turn-based combat, or someone can jump on your ship and you're fighting. It's charming. It's sick. And remake this game, you cowards. Remake it. I need it in my life.
So you can actually board other enemy ships and start going into combat with them as well. It's not just like Ace Combat or nonsense like that. It's actually, wow, come on, tell me more.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, it was just such a charming, like the main pro tag had such a dope look. The story was charming. It wasn't anything like over the top, but it was just really interesting. And I think it was really interesting as well, is because as kids, we're all interested in pirates. Like pirates are just something that's amazing, which is why Pirates of the Caribbean do so well. Like people are just fascinated it. But I feel like now we've had quite a few pirate games, but back in the days, we didn't have anything. It was like one or two things. So I think them kind of bringing it into that kind of anime aesthetic was really cool. Yeah. And I think it's really cool when anime have a take on something that's very Western. So like there's some really cool like cooking anime shows or basketball anime shows or stuff like that, and it kind of had that feel to it. But yeah, it was just enjoyable, man.
That sounds awesome, because I'm trying to think back of that era. as to what kinds of pirate games existed, and I can only really think of like real-time strategy games like Sid Meier's Pirates or things like that, but not Sky Pirates. That just sounds incredibly badass, and I like the sound of it.
So the Breath of the Wild, my second favorite Zelda game ever. Ocarina of Time is one of the most special games in my life, like one of the best games ever made. Like no one can even talk to it till today when it comes to making games. But the game that I played the most on my Nintendo Switch, that I put more time in than any other game, was Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
100%. I have that. I've played it. I thought it was really, really good.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is so special. And it threw me because when I started it, I hated it. First of all, the combat didn't make any sense. Like, it's very rarely I have to go and research how to play a game. I just couldn't understand it, and they just don't explain it well. And when you play JRPGs, they usually throw you with loads of stuff at the beginning, and you're like, fam, do I need an encyclopedia to play this flipping game? But they didn't even do that. They was explaining it slowly, but it just made no sense. And I was like, what's going on? And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was my first. I've never played a Xenoblade game before, so I didn't know anything about it. Went and researched it. I hated Rex's voice. Like fam, what? Like, I hated his voice with a thingy. And I'm a dub guy. I'm not a sub. Like, I'm not about sub. I like dub. So I was playing it with him. And then this game just captured me. I don't know how it happened. I don't know when it happened. Probably when I met Pyra. But yeah, this game just took me on a journey, and I loved it. And I loved that. And I loved Torna. And yeah, that game is just so, so special. Yeah.
The thing that grabbed me about that game is the fact that the worlds that you're exploring are actually these incredibly ginormous, like, monster beast creatures. So you can see it moving in the distance. And you're thinking, that's so cool. It's like I'm on an elder dragon from Monster Hunter or something, but it's this mental high fantasy world, and it looks amazing, even for the little Switch. But yes, it felt like there was hours upon hours of tutorial menus, but not terribly clear and concise as to what it's trying to tell you. So I fully agree with you there.
Fully confuse me. And I'll just give you one more. I'll give you two honorable mentions, but I won't talk about them. I'll just give you honorable mentions. So an honorable mention will be Grandia 2, which is an incredible RPG. And another honorable mention will be The Witcher Wild Hunt. That game is just so special. But the one I want to talk about is a game that another one that caught me off guard. And I love when I get to play a JRPG that calls me off guard.
Yeah.
Is Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now, the reason why Fire Emblem Three Houses caught me off guard is I've known about Fire Emblem for years, but I personally have never been into strategy games. Like, I love RPGs, but I'm never into strategy because I've never liked that overhead view. I just don't like that view. And the game that actually got me interested into strategy games, randomly enough, was Mario plus Rabbids.
Yeah. It's that XCOM kind of thing, right?
That's basically
tactical.
It's basically bitten XCOM, but it really got me into it, and I proper enjoyed it. And I think it was a mix of, it was very simple, like it wasn't like I didn't get lost in the grid system. It wasn't too complicated. The view was good. It wasn't just that that simul look that you get on like Dota 2 and them kind of games. I hate that kind of look. So you're in the combat. And then what I liked about Fire Emblem Three Houses is they implemented that kind of strategy, that more simplistic strategy from Rabbids, but with that kind of persona, waifu, dating, kind of relationship, anime. I'm that anime guy in it. I love that shit. And they put them together, and it was just really, really charming. And I love the characters. The story was super simple, but then it took you on a twist. And I just think it was really, really done well.
Yeah. No love for Octopath Traveler or anything like that?
Do you know what? I'm not a big fan of that the 8-bit aesthetic, you know.
Okay, yeah.
I loved it when it was out, like Link to the Past, one of my favorite Zelda games. Love it with
that's all we
passion.
could get that back then, right? That's all that was possible. Yeah,
exactly. Secret of Mana, all of that. But like I said to you, I don't like to go back, my G. I'm all about going forward. The past is the past. Leave it where it is, unless you're gonna remake it. Then you're making it futuristic. You get me? Like I played Link's Awakening for the first time to last year or the year before when it released, but they gave it a new polish. Give it a polish and I'll come back. But
that's right. Yeah, but Fire Emblem Three Houses, the anime cinematics in that game, I would watch a Netflix series of just that because it was so well produced. It was so high quality. And I got to dive into that because, again, this is the problem. I buy JRPGs and they sit there and I like the thought of them. I love the cinematics. But then when it comes to like the tactical stuff, I need to just focus and get into it and invest time into it. Another one that I've got, which is still sitting there, I got the collector's edition of Astral Chain. When I know it's not really a JRPG as such, not in the same vein as like Three Houses or Final Fantasy, but again, it's got that incredible anime aesthetic to it, and it's set in this kind of cyberpunk future world, and you're a police officer, but then you have this kind of spectral being, which is kind of like a persona, and that kind of does the combat and special moves and stuff like that. And I think everything about that speaks to me that this should be amazing, but I just need to find the time to invest in it and get into it, because visually that just looks amazing. And I'm also kind of the same thought process as it came out on the Switch, and the Switch only has so much power. If this came out on like PlayStation 5 or the Series X or something like that, can you imagine how amazing those visuals would look like and the higher frame rate and everything? So I'm like, I've got these amazingly highly powerful consoles sitting there, and the Switch can only do so much. And I need that Switch Pro, Midas. When is the Switch Pro going to come out? That's what we need.
Nintendo, we need that Switch Pro. Russ, I'm going to give you a confession, yeah?
Okay.
Confession time, yeah? I'm coming off confessing. Fam, I've started that game 3 times. 3 times. I don't know what. Like, everything about that game I should love. Yeah. Like you said, the anime aesthetics, like the sick like robots kind of persona things that are linked to you. I don't like too much being a fed, like that's not my MO. The detective stuff, all of that, but I don't know what, it just doesn't connect. Well, I'll tell you what's really interesting when you're saying about the next generation. Bandai Namco's announced their title Scarlet Nexus, which basically looks like a bite of Astral Chain.
Yeah,
it's super Astral Chain, but it's that next gen that we need. And I'm going to be banging that game. I know I'm going to be banging it because I could play it on my PS5, on big TV and stuff like that. And I like RPGs in a handheld. That's why I love
you better be streaming it.
Golden.
Get your ass on Twitch and stream that so we can all freak out together. Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Fam, I wish. I don't have time. No time.
It's hard when you're so in demand, man. That's it. It's difficult.
What can you do? It was all of them waifus and the personas just taking over my life.
Yeah. So what JRPGs or just games in general, what are you looking forward to that's coming out over the next kind of couple of months? There's some incredible bangers which are coming. We've got Kena, Bridge of Spirits, which just looks like this incredible Pixar level of fantasy adventure game. I don't know if it's an RPG or if it's just like an adventure game like Jak and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank. But again, speaking of Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart is only like a month away. You mentioned Scarlet Nexus. Apparently we're going to be getting Horizon Forbidden West and God of War is apparently coming this year as well. However unlikely, apparently they're still on course. It's going to be another insane banger year for games across every platform. Deathloop is on the horizon as well. What are you looking forward to? What are the big ones for you?
Firstly, God of War ain't coming this year. Stop holding on to hopes, you people. It's not happening.
I'm gonna dye my beard black and get the red stripe across so I can stream it as Kratos. Don't shatter my dreams, man.
You got to look, but it ain't coming this year. I'm keeping a buck with you. But you know what? The game you said there that has connected with me the most is Kena Bridge of Spirits. I kept on calling it Kenna before, but Kena Bridge of Spirits.
It might be Kenna. I don't know. It could be either.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's Kena. And that game looks incredible. Zelda's my thing, and I love that. And I feel like Horizon Zero Dawn was kind of PlayStation's answer to that, but this for me feels like it's going to be that. And a lot of people don't know Ember Labs, this is their first proper game. Like, they actually used to make they made like animation, and they made an incredible Majora's Mask animation, and it like a fan-made animation they made. Wow. And it is incredible. It's beautiful, and this has that kind of style, and I feel like it's going to be that kind of Zelda-esque title, and I don't feel like PlayStation has that. So I'm super excited about that. Like, that's going to be everything. Really excited about Horizon Zero Dawn, or Forbidden West. Still calling it Zero Dawn.
I think everybody is. This is Zero Dawn Forbidden West. PlayStation, like, I'm a big PlayStation guy, and I love their first party games. PlayStation are incredible at making some incredible protagonists, and they can stand next to Nintendo now when it comes to their main characters. And I love Aloy as a character. I love the world, like that whole Native American aesthetic. I love like robot dinosaurs, fam. You can't beat robot dinosaurs. You can't.
But one thing that was difficult for me was Horizon Zero Dawn came out when Breath of the Wild came out. And I had a Switch. The Switch just launched. I had my Switch. I had Breath of the Wild. I was like, I'm not playing it. I want to finish Horizon Zero Dawn. And I was playing it, and it kept on calling my name. It's like, Midas. I was like, no, I want to finish this game. It was like, Midas. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to start playing it. And as soon as I played Breath of the Wild and I finished it and I went back to Horizon Zero Dawn, I realized how closed the world was, because Zelda was just so open, and you can climb everything and stuff like that. And like, there'll be certain times in Horizon when I'm trying to get to something, and like I'm trying to get up this mountain, but the mountain's not designed that way, so I've got to come around and go around, and that really, really irritated me. So I'm hoping it's going to be a lot more open than the previous one is. And you know, this is going to sound mad, you know, like, you know, I'm mad as it is, but you know, my biggest pet peeve is about that game.
What is it?
Aloy's teeth.
Her teeth? What's wrong with her teeth? Are they too perfect?
I don't know. Fam, her teeth, when she's talking, when we finish recording, I want you to go, everyone who's watching this, I want you to go onto YouTube. I want you to put on Horizon Zero Dawn, not Forbidden West, because I ain't looked at her teeth on their trailer, and just look at a scene when she's talking to someone, because they do very good at that. They do that Mass Effect thing where they got both angles of the people who's talking. And whenever she's talking, her teeth look so weird, fam. They just jar me. I'm like, why do your teeth look like that? So hopefully they fix their teeth.
Midas, don't you dare ruin Horizon Zero Dawn as a franchise for me. If the only thing I can focus on is our freaking teeth, I'm going to be coming after you, because it's like, you've ruined the game for me. All I can see are these big chompers that just look silly.
But there's so many titles that I'm super excited about. Really excited to, like, I'm a big Persona guy. Persona 4 Golden was my first one, but I've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game before. So I've never played the actual real. So I'm going to check out the Shin Megami Tensei, I think it's number 3 remaster. And then I'm looking forward to trying out the new Shin Megami Tensei game. And those are like meant to be like proper hard and super dark. So it's a great time. It's a great time to be a gamer. Like, there's so much amazing games out there, and I'm just enjoying experiencing them. Man.
Are you going to dive back into Final Fantasy VII when the Intergrade comes out for PS5?
Hell yes, of course. There's not even a good. I've platinum Final Fantasy VII Remake, which means completing it on normal mode and hard mode. And hard mode is crazy. Hard mode is so mad. Every fight, every boss fight, you got to be like, all right, how do I do this? You got to change around everyone's material. Like, it is mad. I put hours into that game to get them doing all of them pull-ups.
The pull-ups.
I hate it. The pull-ups was the worst part of the game. did all of that for the platinum. I'm jumping straight back in that on my PS5. Do you know what? The only reason I haven't even replayed it is because I know Integrate's coming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, feel for some of us that can't even get their hands on a PlayStation 5 yet because of the stock issues, and we're still waiting. Like, all of these bangers keep getting announced and upgrades. Last of Us 2 just got a PS5 patch to bring it up to 60 frames per second. I think it just launched today or yesterday, and nobody needs a reason to buy a PlayStation 5. Everybody wants a PlayStation 5, but because of the stock problems, nobody can get a PlayStation 5. And I really hope that by the time Rift Apart comes around, there's going to be more stock. And by the time Horizon comes around, there needs to be so much stock available that people just don't have to fall back on the scalpers. They can just get their hands on a PlayStation 5 and enjoy these incredible games, because it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt them eventually. They can't get these amazing hardware, these consoles.
They need to look at Aloy's teeth, man. They need to know what Aloy's teeth saying. Get me? High def. Full high def fashion.
Yeah, I'm going to be expecting the new one to have such good ray tracing that when we look at Aloy's teeth, we see the reflections of the dinosaurs mirrored in them. Or maybe you can bling her up by giving her some caps, some gold or silver caps to fix the teeth.
I'm all about it. Give her a full grill. You get me? Like Little Wayne out here.
Yeah. That'd be so much fun. So, oh my God, what is next for you then? Because obviously Jinx TV is the big TV program that you are presenter of. You mentioned at the beginning, the last year you joined that team, but obviously because of the lockdown and pandemic, everything, that obviously you haven't been able to go into like a studio setting or locations or anything like that. So what does that look like for you just now or the past year or so, but also, you know, over the next few months for you?
Well, I was lucky enough when pandemic hit last year and we went into lockdown last year, April, everything stopped. Like my show on GRM stopped. I literally just got my show on Sky and that stopped. And I was literally just in my house for about a week playing video games. And then the creator in me just started getting depressed and was like, you need to create. So I just started off like a little mini podcast series called Too Many Games and Not Enough Time, where I just talk to gamers about what they're playing in lockdown. And it's a short form podcast, like we cap at like 20 minutes. And then I started investing in some equipment. I've got myself a Canon, some lighting, a little microphone, and just started doing stuff on my own YouTube and started actually creating my own platform and doing like reviews and previews and stuff like that. And that started getting a bit of traction and people started getting interested and people started wanting to come on my podcast, which was like, why? Like, I've just got a little tiny channel. Like, why do you want to come over here?
Hey, tiny channel, you just hit 1.5, mate. So that's not tiny. That's not tiny.
No. I'm talking when I had like 150 followers, fam.
Okay.
But that really changed how I look at it, because people gotta understand, like, when I started in the game, the channel that I was creating content on had 2 million subscribers. And then outside of that, I was producing for TV and on TV. So I was always making content for like mass audiences. And it's so humbling when you literally have to start from scratch. And you know yourself, like building from scratch. And like, when you came on my content, I got about 15 to 20 people who wanted to come and do this video, and I went through everyone's video, and you were one of the people who stood out to me. Like, I love the style of your content. I love your personality. I love your quality. Like, your stuff looks sick. Your background looks good. That those are the things that really stand out to me. And even when I had to even when I had to start my channel from scratch, I was like, one of the most important things is making sure that you have quality. Like, quality control is so important to me. And no matter how much money you have, like, most people have a smartphone. Like, you can do a lot with smartphone if you get good lighting. Like, there's no excuse for your content to look like a piece of trash. So just building that. So I've been continuing building my YouTube. COVID was mad, but like, I was really lucky. Like, I produced some stuff for Final Fantasy VII Remake, which you could imagine for me was incredible to be working on a game that I love and actually being paid for it. working on my own YouTube, continuing for pushing for like diversity. Like I hosted some stuff for Gamescom. I've done some stuff with Ubisoft. And now I'm an Elgato partner. So yeah, just continuing to grow my brand. My whole president is two things. One is continuing allowing voices from our community and Black voices to be seen and heard within the space, but also really solidifying myself as a presenter in gaming. Because when we think of gaming, like, you know, you're a game creator and you work in gaming, and when you do gaming, everyone's like, oh, you're a Twitch streamer, oh, you play games on stream, and like, no, there's more to the industry than that. And like Jeff Keighley and Greg Miller are probably the only two video game presenters anyone can ever really think of or establish. So I'd love to kind of have myself at that level, but more than anything, just enjoy what I do, man. Like, I know I look good, but I'm getting older. Black don't crack. And liberty of life is so important, man. Like, the older you get, you realize that, like, when you're young, you just want to be famous and you want loads of money, and those things help. But just being able to be happy in life in what you do is so important.
Yeah, 100%. I just recorded an episode of the podcast just the last night. It was the first time I'd ever done a proper group podcast of industry professionals. And that's going to go live. Well, by the time this video goes live with you, Midas, it will already be on the YouTube channel. But it was all about creativity and inspirations. And we got Max Payers, who's the senior level designer at CD Projekt Red. He'd worked on Cyberpunk. Jeff Ross, game director on Days Gone. Sarah Lynham was a voiceover artist. And Jen Mack, who is the director of global partnerships at Women in Games International. So a real broad spectrum of skill sets at different facets of the industry. And what was amazing about that talk was it was all about the freedom to experiment and not worry about failure. You know, when you want to be creative, you want to experiment, you want to try different things, but it's difficult sometimes when you feel that any failure, no matter how small, is going to immediately have like a negative repercussion on you. And therefore people are afraid to experiment and to try different things, especially if you're coming up in the industry and you don't necessarily have any kind of cachet behind you or anything like that. But it was so refreshing to kind of hear their individual like inspirations, what gets them excited about different stuff. And one of the big things that came out of that wasn't just about that lack of fear of failing or being allowed, being like cultivating spaces where you can fail. It's actually okay because you will learn from that and then you'll bring something different next time. But it's also talking to people, like this, listening to as many voices as possible, different backgrounds as possible, because nobody knows everything. And nobody wants to work with anybody that thinks they know everything and they don't need outside input from anybody. So getting to talk to you, hearing your journey, hearing your experiences and your goals and your inspirations, just even if I was a closed off person, that would automatically give something to enrich my experience and my outlook on stuff. But because I want to go out and talk to as many people as possible, you're constantly absorbing different viewpoints and different cultures and different experiences, and it makes you just like way more rounded as a person, and you get to experience things that you would never normally get to experience. And that's what's so amazing about the games industry, is the community can be amazing. They can be toxic and stuff as well. There can be problems, but overall, all the people that I've been very fortunate enough to talk to have always been like so generous with like advice or their inspirations, or just sharing their stories and passing that on to hopefully new generations of people that maybe want to get into the gaming space. Or like you said about Black characters didn't really exist when you first played Final Fantasy VII. You saw that, and then that resonated with you because it's like you can see yourself on this grand stage that hadn't really happened before, and it's opening doors all the time, and the doors constantly move and change, but you're constantly opening them for other generations to walk through and to see that you can do anything you want. You've got the tools are there, and people are so eager to share their knowledge, to start uplifting and creating as much as we can. It's amazing to be a part of and to see.
Yeah, it's super dope. And kudos to you on such a sick lineup of guests, man. That is super dope, man. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that one, man. I'm not letting that slip apart. Like, man's got to give you your dues for that, my G, because that's a sick lineup. Like, ratings on that.
It was the funny thing of coordinating 4 time zones, because there was East Coast US, West Coast US, Europe, and UK, and there were all these different time zones. So it was a good laugh. Thankfully, everybody was like super accommodating to like work their schedules around all being on the call, because everybody wanted to do it, and that's all we can really ask for is reach out to people, and if they want to be a part of something, amazing. That's fantastic. If they don't, that's fine too. Don't take it personally if you can't get the Corey Barlogs or the Neil Druckmanns to be on a piece of content that you really badly want to create. You can still create a bit of content, but you won't necessarily have a big named thing to be a part of it. But it doesn't stop you as a creator. You can still reach out to so many other people that don't necessarily get a spotlight to shine on them. And that's the big thing that I try to do with this podcast show is, like how many walks of life and skill sets go into game development, the games industry, whether it is the PR team, whether it's the lighting designer or the sound designer. These are people that don't normally get trumpeted and cheerleaded for. So let's talk to them if we can and find out about how to get into that side of the business as well. It can be just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
and of course, your side of the business is super unique as well. So let's talk about that and let's promote that and shout about it to as many people as possible.
100%, man. Give people their roses while they're here, Ross. Give them their roses while they're here.
Absolutely. So, my man, thank you very much for joining me today. We'll wrap up there. It has been an absolutely fleeting and brilliant hour. And again, thank you for just taking the time, telling everybody about your story and, of course, all the things that you're looking forward to and, of course, your epic list of JRPGs. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Weekend Catch-Up Club podcast. Thank you very much for taking your time and watching and listening to the show. I'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share the channel, and help us grow. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.